We have developing news on Tiger Woods' soulmates. The world-renowned golfer was injured today in a single car crash near Los Angeles, according to the LA County Sheriff's Department. Emergency personnel responded to a rollover crash at approximately 7:12 a.m. local time and extracted Woods from the vehicle using jaws of life. He was taken to a hospital for his injuries, but his condition is unknown at this time. Woods, 45, has multiple leg injuries, according to his agent, Mark Steinberg, who said the golfer was in surgery this afternoon, according to ESPN. This is a developing story, and we definitely will keep you posted. Just to think, just yesterday, he was on a golf course with Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade posted that on his page. And here's a man through the years when he first started his career, like he just had that game face every time, so he wasn't really approachable. But now, over the last few years, the golf world has truly fallen in love with Tiger Woods, so we definitely are sending prayers his way.
Yeah. A quick update that I wanted to add in here. I just saw on Twitter moments ago. So the Sheriff's Department did originally say that rescuers used the jaws of life to get him out, but they're actually updating the story a little bit to say that they didn't use that hydraulic rescue equipment to get him out of the car. So I just wanted to give that little update there that, maybe, a little update on what the Sheriff's Office originally put out on Twitter.
Yeah, regardless, but that just looks scary.
It does.
If you've ever been in California and you've driven along the canyons, Mulholland or whatever the case is, it is beautiful but frightening when you look over the side. I myself have been terrified of driving over the edge. So, I'm glad that that it's only a leg injury. It could have been so much worse.
Yeah, that's true.
Also, Jada Pinkett Smith, she was out there as well, too, and she sent out a tweet also, and just letting everyone to know not to take life for granted.
Thanks, Jada.
Yeah. All right. Well, now let's move on to your headlines for the day. We have an update in the death of Elijah McClain in Colorado. His mother, Shanine McClain, says she is relieved that new information clears her son's name, and he is now officially known as a victim. The results of an independent investigation into his death show officers had no legal grounds to stop him. CNN reports the investigative panel also concluded that one officer's explanation that Aurora officers are trained to take action before it escalates does not meet the constitutional requirement of reasonable suspicion. McClain's mother praised the panel and the report's findings. She says it was overwhelming knowing my son was innocent the entire time and just waiting on the facts and proof of it. My son's name is cleared now. He's no longer labeled a suspect. He is actually a victim. And so, just think about that. This young man died. He died, and independent investigators say he shouldn't have been stopped in the first place. I want to tell you about a recent case that was in California's appellate court, because it all comes back around together. So bear with me here. It's People versus Flores. So in that case, police argued that they had adequate reasoning to stop a man because he wasn't behaving normally, right? They say he ducked down and stayed down too long once he saw them. He says, I was tying my shoe, right? So the reason I'm saying that is because the judge who wrote the dissenting opinion called out that claim, explaining why black and brown people freeze when they see the police, actually literally ending the dissent with tell that story to Eric Garner. The issue here is that was the dissenting opinion, which means that the majority of the judges on California's appellate court in this case sided with the police. So how can you reform something like this? It's similar to this situation.
Yeah.
Police can simply say he wasn't behaving normally, and that was reason enough, regardless of what our constitutional rights are. And how can you reform something like this when an appellate court says, well, we agree?
Yeah, I mean, Brooke, that's such a good case to apply to this. In addition to the report that was given, they stopped short of blaming implicit bias. Now, if for those who don't understand what implicit bias is, it's defined as the term described when we have attitudes towards people who associate stereotypes with them without conscious knowledge. And so he was considered to be a suspicious person, but suspicious of what? There was no crime reported having been committed in the area. They literally stopped him for no reason whatsoever, and then loaded him full of ketamine.
Yes.
That's another thing that the report found, that they pumped him full of ketamine that would have been, that was way more than his 140-pound frame could handle. So, this whole case has been a matter of police perception as to what a criminal is,
No,
or criminal behavior is, I should say.
No, I'm glad you added that, Melissa, because that's where I was going to go with this is, not only were the police officers wrong, but on top of that, the paramedics did a bad job as well. Like Melissa was saying that he was only, for his body frame, he was only supposed to get about 320 milligrams of the ketamine, and he got 500 milligrams. So they were also at fault as well. And I'm wondering, we can look into what the police officers did, but we also need to look into what the paramedics did as well, as a cause for the death. And so, I'm hoping that we can get some more information on that as well.
Look, they call them coward cops. And then they threatened to sick the dogs on him if he didn't act right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all on video. It's all right there.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Also, over the summer, Colorado became the first state to end so-called qualified immunity. So maybe that's a result of what happened, but we're waiting for further development on that. A video posted to social media showing a Louisiana police officer pinning a 13-year-old boy to the ground with his arm under his neck during an arrest has sparked an investigation. In the video, which has been circulated on Twitter, an unidentified Baton Rouge, Louisiana police officer is seen on the ground over a young boy with his arm around the boy's neck. In the background of the video, onlookers can be heard saying, "He's a boy, get off of him, and you're choking him," according to CNN. The clip also shows the officer then placing the teen in a sitting position and pulling his arms behind his back. The short video does not show what happened leading up to the arrest or after, CNN reported. Sunday's incident is currently under investigation to determine if the officer involved violated any policies. He is not currently facing disciplinary action, Police Chief Murphy Paul told CNN. Now, last week we covered a story about the LA school system releasing over 100 cops from their employ. And this is one of the reasons why I think that was a really good idea, because of, like I said in the last story, implicit bias. This cop is manhandling this 13-year-old child, but with the eyes of implicit bias, could it be that he perceives an increased perception of threat, perception of extraordinary strength, perception of higher pain tolerance? That is exactly what I feel like I'm looking at right now.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it. Once again, we have white cops beating up little black boys, right? It just doesn't add up. It looks very disgusting when you see it right there. And you wonder why we say Black Lives Matter. And people try to go against that, saying, well, all lives matter. We understand that, but we're the ones that send ourselves over and over again on video with this happening. And look, these two police officers couldn't handle this situation. They couldn't handle that differently. Again, we go back to training. We go back to all these other steps, or if they really even care about us at the end of the day.
Well, it seems like to me with Baton Rouge, just recently, Alton Sterling, that $4.5 million settlement, for his family, it seems like, Baton Rouge specifically, they just are a place that, the police officers can kind of run wild. And if they need to pay some money out, they will do so. But the Baton Rouge mayor and president Sharon Weston Broome, she also says that she's been working tirelessly to close the gap between police officers and the citizens of the community. And she said that she is going to not skirt around this, and she's going to make sure that this is thoroughly investigated. So I'm sure we'll get some more details on that in the coming days.
Yeah, and when watching this video, I watched the video. It's terrifying. The video, it's hard to watch, but you hear someone in the background screaming, "You're choking him." And so the question that I understand a lot of people are having is, why didn't the officer course correct?
Yeah.
In that moment, you hear someone else, seeing what you're doing. If you're out of it, you hear someone telling you what you're doing. Why continue to do that?
It's like he was in the zone. That's what it looks like, unfortunately, right?
Yeah.
All right, well, a year later, as 3 men await trial in the February 23rd, 2020 slaying of Ahmaud Arbery, those closer to the 25-year-old black man want to make sure Arbery's death isn't overlooked again. Ahmaud Arbery's mother just filed a bombshell federal lawsuit alleging the men charged in her son's death were in cahoots with the local law enforcement. Wanda Cooper is suing Greg and Travis McMichael and William Bryan, the three who have been charged in connection with Ahmaud's killing a year ago today, as well as a number of police officials in Glenn County and the county itself, all whom she said violated Ahmaud's civil rights according to TMZ. Ahmaud's mom alleges multiple causes of action include excessive force, conspiracy to violate Ahmaud's civil rights, conspiracy to obstruct justice, a failure to properly train officers, and several others. She's seeking at least $1 million in damages. Arbery had been dead for more than 2 months when the cell phone video of the shooting was leaked online on May 5th and a national outcry erupted. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation took over the case the next day and swiftly arrested the shooter, Travis McMichael, his father, Greg McMichael, and neighbor, Roddy Bryan, on murder charges. Now, according to the Associated Press, a memorial procession led by Arbery's family was planned for this evening through the Satilla Shore subdivision, where he fell bleeding in the streets from the close-range shotgun blast. Organizers asked supporters outside Brunswick to participate virtually, running for 2.23 miles to remember the avid runner whose family says he was jogging when he was killed. Remember when that video got released and how we all felt about that, these men taking the law into their own hands and thinking it was okay. And then we have to go back thinking if that video never got released, will we even be seeking for justice, right? And just yesterday, we were talking about the police officer in Lexington, Kentucky, who I guess he did an incident that he got in trouble for back in May 2020, is already fired, and we still haven't had the trial on this yet.
You're right. There's the story we were talking about yesterday.
Yeah.
And you're right, Roman. We have to keep reminding people. You know, a lot of people like to bag on cancel culture, but social media has given marginalized communities a louder voice than we've ever had before, and we would not have even known about this.
Yes.
This was already wrapped up, and they had, to a certain extent, moved on before we even saw this video. This man had been dead for months at that point, right? Was it 2 months?
Yeah.
I believe 2 months,
And we hadn't even seen the video. When we saw the video and the public outrage, that changed the entire course of this case.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have even known.
Speaking of social media, Brooke, President Joe Biden just tweeted, earlier today, a black man should be able to go for a jog without fearing for his life. Today we remember Ahmaud Arbery's life, and we dedicate ourselves to making this country safer for people of color. In addition to that tweet, or in response to that tweet, I just want to make this known to, black people who are living in California and might be voting for the next governor. Earl Weber, who's running for California governor, replied, "I'm a black man and I have never feared for my life while jogging." I saw that. I wanted everybody to know that was what he said.
Yeah, that was his response.
That was his response. Yeah. I'm just like, no compassion, no empathy, no nothing, just redirecting it towards his own personal experiences rather than to have sympathy and empathy for a mother who's lost her son so viciously. It's disgusting.
Yeah, I saw that, and I wanted to drag him, but I did not. So I'm glad you dragged him on Fox News Black Report, because I absolutely wanted to be like, what? You are a black man and in a city with black people. Like, how could you? On top of the fact that it was just bad timing. Just anywho, moving right along, you guys. So a misdemeanor charge has been dropped against a black man who was arrested last week for walking home on a street during a snowstorm in Texas. 18-year-old Rodney Reese was arrested on February 16th in Plano and charged with being a pedestrian in the roadway.
Just talk to us for a minute. Just talk to us for a minute.
I ain't gonna put my hand on a female. Please don't touch me.
Okay. I'm just trying to get your attention, okay? We're just trying to make sure you're okay.
Don't touch me.
We're trying to make sure you're okay. We're trying to make sure you're okay. Sir?
No, what?
We're trying.
No, what?
We're doing an investigation.
I don't care. I'm going home.
You were officially detained.
No.
Yes,
Sir.
yes you are.
Bro.
Stop.
Stop.
Just relax.
Just relax, all right?
Just relax.
We're just trying to talk to you.
I got an anger problem. Please get off me. No.
Stop.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to touch you.
Yeah, you didn't stop. Put your hands behind your back now. You are not free to go.
Why?
The next thing we do is going to be get a charge right now.
For what?
Because you're pushing on an officer.
I'm not pushing. How am I pushing on you?
Plano police say officers were performing a wellness check on Reese after they received a call about a black man seen stumbling on the snowy roadway clad in a short-sleeved shirt. Reese told KDFW that he was walking home from Walmart, where he works, and that he didn't need their help, so that's why he didn't stop for them, the Associated Press is reporting. The body cam footage showed officers repeatedly asking Reese where he was going and if he was okay. Reese replied that he is fine and he was on his way home. Plano Police Chief Ed Drain told KDFW TV that the charge was dropped because the arrest wasn't consistent with what officers were called to investigate. Drain says the arrest wasn't racially motivated, but Reese disagrees. So I'm not sure if you guys got a chance to see the full video. Honestly, this video infuriated me to no end. So the beginning of the video that we didn't get a chance to show here on Fox Soul is, you know, these police officers clearly had nothing else better to do. It's in the middle of a national crisis in Texas. It's cold outside. You know, whoever called the cops on him, shame on you, number one. But, you know, they were saying they were doing an investigation. So whoever you were investigating, they're on a flight to Jamaica somewhere because you literally had so much time to follow him half the way home, making jokes. And it's kind of like, let the boy get home. He didn't do anything wrong. He clearly has, you know, probably a Walmart shirt, things. And it was just, this made me so upset. And whoever you guys were actually looking for is on the other side of the country by now.
No, okay, wait, hold on. Let's back up. They said they're performing a wellness check. He said he didn't need any help. So then they proceed to harass him to the point where he's literally telling them, please get away from me. I'm trying to go home because I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a lot of snow outside. It's cold and I'm in a short sleeve shirt. So can I be on my way? No, sorry. We're going to arrest you.
Yeah, I mean, it makes no sense. I have a 7-year-old, and every time I see stories like this, it just makes me upset because I pray I don't have to deal with the day when my son encounters police officers like this. I have a police friend I called. I said, what would you have done in this situation? He said, if I was an officer, I would say, first of all, are you okay? You're out here without a jacket. It's cold. Do you need a ride somewhere? He only lives a few blocks, so he lives in the neighborhood. If you offer him a ride, then say, hey, before you get in my vehicle, I just want to make sure you don't have any weapons on you. But still, you're not harassing him. You're offering him a ride. You're going about this a different way.
This man would have said no. They asked him what he was doing. He very clearly said, I don't need your help.
But if you give him those options, you say no, then you let him go.
Right.
Right.
You know, and this is what I do a lot of research on criminal justice reform, and people who want to defund the police and people who want to reform the police, two very different things, because reform means more rules that officers find excuses not to follow. Defund the police means more money, less money in the police departments, and more money into different public services so that police officers aren't who even responds to a wellness check in the first place.
That's a good point, Brooke.
Absolutely.
That's a really, really good point.
All right, so let's check in really quickly with our YouTube soulmates. Sobi at one says, this story keeps breaking my heart. Every new detail, how are these officers and EMS not in custody for murder? Another one of our soulmates says, police need to police their own communities. Watch everything change. Another one of our soulmates here says, I like listening to Fox Soul News and Information. Keep up the good work, guys. I enjoy this show so much. It means so much for our Black people and our culture. That's from Ralph Jones. We love you, Ralph. Keep the comments coming, though. And Romeo's going to let us know what's coming up after the break.
Up next, we got news from Dr. Fauci. Johnson & Johnson is ready to provide COVID-19 vaccines. California lawmakers approve stimulus checks, and find out which amusement park is ready to open back up. Those stories and more next right here on Fox Soul's Black Report.
Dr. Anthony Fauci, the nation's leading infectious diseases expert, said on Monday that political divisiveness over the use of masks contributed to the U.S. coronavirus death count. Fauci made the comments on the same day the country's death toll reached 500,000 people 1 year after the start of the pandemic. Calling the grim milestone stunning in an interview with Reuters, Fauci said the divide over mask wearing, which split Americans politically during a presidential election year, turned the public health measure into a political statement. While Fauci would not lay all the blame on the former Trump administration, he noted the lack of involvement at the very top of the leadership in trying to do everything that was science-based was clearly detrimental to the effort. While the U.S. has 4% of the world population, it has almost 20% of all coronavirus deaths, according to Reuters. And I did a deep dive into some articles that were written like last year when the pandemic was going on, and I found something written by CNN about aversion to mask wearing. And it started, America was born in rebellion, and it's a spirit that runs deep in its character. And it's so funny to me that it qualified or like it classified, you know, the aversion to wearing masks as a rebellion. You know, it went on to talk about a woman who burned a mask in a frying pan on Facebook. She also said that mandatory mask infringes on our freedoms. And another man went on to say that he wouldn't wear a mask even though he's lost family members to the virus. And you know, it's kind of ridiculous that 500,000 people had to lose their lives because this was politicized by probably the worst president in American history. because this was avoidable to a huge extent.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of the president, I don't know if you guys got a chance to see Meghan McClain of The View. She actually is calling for President Biden to fire Dr. Fauci. She says that, and the reason why she says is because she doesn't know when she's going to get her vaccine. And so she says that she wants President Biden to hire someone who does understand science because she doesn't know when she's going to get her vaccine, when it's kind of like, Dr. Fauci knows what he's doing. But I wanted to add, too, she said that she can't give all the blame for President Biden because, Trump had some of it to do. But now she's like, we're in the Biden administration. And I want to know what you guys think. Can we have anything to say about President Biden right now about what's going on with everything with the virus? Or can all the blame go on President Trump?
Look, man, I'm blaming Trump. He created the good versus the bad, the smart versus the dumb in this situation, because here's a man, before he got into office, we were following what the doctor said. That's what they're specialists in, right? That's what they do. All of a sudden, he wants to call the shots and say what's right and what's wrong. Yes, he should be responsible for those lives that are lost. We're talking half a million?
Yeah.
Right, and 500,000 people, it's not just, when we say, 500,000 people, 500,000 people, that's every single person. That's somebody's grandma, somebody's uncle, somebody's child in some instances. And, just like Romeo said, Donald Trump did lead a lot of the, politicization about masks. Sorry. He made it about politics. He would make fun of Joe Biden. He wasn't wearing them in instances where he should. And Fauci said something that I thought was interesting. He gave an interview to the Telegraph, and he said this. He said, when it became clear that in order to maintain my integrity and to get the right message across, I had to publicly disagree with Trump, then Trump did things or allowed things to happen that were terrible.
Like death threats.
I mean,
kind of like that.
500,000 people lost. All right, let's stay on the topic of COVID-19 because Johnson & Johnson reps say the company plans to have enough doses of its vaccine for more than 20 million Americans by the end of March. They say that's if its vaccine is authorized by the Food and Drug Administration. Now, the vaccine is being eagerly awaited as the next in line to join the COVID-19 vaccines already in use from Pfizer and Moderna. An FDA advisory committee is meeting Friday to consider the application. Emergency authorization could come soon after. Monday, the company gave some specificity regarding the number of doses it will have immediately available. The vaccine only requires one dose, unlike those from Pfizer and Moderna. This means 20 million doses would completely vaccinate 20 million people. So a big difference there. I want to talk a little bit about some news that broke today. The LA Times broke a story today. So basically California, the state of California where we are, had a program really trying to target black and brown people who lived in predominantly black neighborhoods, because as we know, we are disproportionately dying from this virus, to be able to prioritize them for vaccine appointments, our elderly healthcare workers. Other people, so they were passing out these access codes, right, to community organizers, right? Affluent neighborhoods, people in completely different group, a bunch of white Californians, wealthy, got a hold of these access codes and were using them and getting vaccinated. And you know what I've been saying this whole time, there's a lot of, well, should you get the vaccine? Should you not? The black people who want to get the vaccine are going to struggle to be able to access it. And we're seeing it. That's been my worry this whole time. And we're seeing it over and over and over again, even when, the state tries again.
Wow.
My love for Johnson & Johnson is if I decide to get the vaccine, right, it will be with Johnson & Johnson. I want to be one and done.
One and done.
I'm not ready to get into that yet, but I'm just saying I love the fact that it can go ahead and reach 20 million people in one shot.
That's you took the words out of my mouth, Romeo. I'm impartial to Moderna if and when. But what I am saying is, the name recognition for a lot of people is going to get a lot more people wanting to get the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, on top of the fact that it's one and done, like you said. But also I wanted to add in something else that happened. So South Africa, I told you guys last week that they just started a rollout for vaccines in South Africa, and they were going to go with AstraZeneca. So they decided to halt using AstraZeneca because they found out that it had a low efficiency. So now they're totally giving out, turning their back to AstraZeneca, and now they're going to the Johnson & Johnson vaccine because they said that it does protect against severe disease and death, and also that new variant, the B.1.3 351 variant as well.
Yeah, but that's what's going to be discussed during the meeting is the efficacy rate, or of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. There's going to be, first of all, the meeting you're going to be able to watch the meeting if you want to. So for people who are not, up on what happens during a Food and Drug Administration kind of meeting, for drug approval, you'll be able to watch this actually on Friday on YouTube, which I advise everybody to do so, because they're going to be discussing things like the efficacy rate. They're also going to be discussing, effectiveness of the vaccine, the window into FDA's review on vaccine protection against variants, and comparison between the two types of vaccine technology. So this is all information we should all have.
Yeah. That's a great point, Melissa, because it's not FDA approved yet. So, but they want to go with it. Okay. Now, moving right along, California's legislature on Monday approved a $7.6 billion coronavirus relief package that will include $600 stimulus checks for low-income residents. Governor Gavin Newsom, who helped craft the bill, says that the plan is on signing the legislation. He plans on signing the legislation. And so the stimulus checks will go to Californians making $30,000 a year or less. The package also includes more than $2 billion in grants for small businesses, $30 million for food banks, and $5 million for diaper banks. It will also cancel about $25.6 million in fees for restaurants and hair salons. While I was reading the story, I kind of wanted to give a quick update, and I figured I'd just give it to you guys at the end. So a quick update, he actually did sign it a few hours ago in Sacramento. And so I was reading on the people that could get this. And so people seem to be really upset on Instagram and Twitter, because even though it says low income, $30,000, it's very specific, the people that can get the stimulus check. A couple of them, people that don't have social security numbers, immigrants who are ineligible to get that $1,200 stimulus check. So, people aren't really happy about the fact that this $600 stimulus check, because it's a very narrow group of people that can that are eligible to get the money.
Yeah, this says it's going to reach 5.7 million people, but when you do your research, it's over 7 million people that fall up on the $30,000. So a lot of people are going to miss out on that. And then if they get that stimulus check, they want to make sure they still get the other stimulus check that we've been waiting on too.
Absolutely.
Right, on top of that.
Well, California has 40 million people, so 5.7 million people. Are we really talking about a lot of people? 5 million out of 40 million people is not really a very big, group of people, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's true.
Melissa, I don't want to jump in before you do.
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I just think that the state's stepping up. California pays a lot of money in taxes. The state tax rate here is high, right? I lived in Texas, Tennessee with no taxes. I come to California, it's like, oh, wow, this is different. We even pay taxes in the city of Los Angeles. And so I think it's good that some of those taxes go to helping out people in need, because we talk about it all the time. People aren't able to eat right now. We're talking about big things that people are struggling with. Housing is a big deal. So any way that our tax dollars can go to immediate use like this, I think this is great, because the state needs to step up, the federal government needs to step up, but while we're waiting on the federal government, every state should be doing something. And so I'm glad to see this happening here.
The only thing I was going to say was this sounds like a Hail Mary pass for Governor Newsom, because people hate him right now. So
he's on the hot seat, and some people
he really is. He really is.
Yeah, he needed to do something. So
that's true. All right, well, Six Flags Entertainment Corporation recently announced it aims to reopen all of its 26 locations for the 2021 season after it was forced to keep 5 closed in 2020 due to the coronavirus pandemic. Now, the company said in a statement it will reopen with capacity restrictions. According to CNN, all customers will have their temperatures taken and be required to make reservations, and masks will be mandatory for both workers and customers. Six Flags said it developed a plan that meets or exceeds federal, state, and local guidelines for sanitation, hygiene, and social distancing protocols in cooperation with epidemiologists, according to the network. Now, parks will also take other precautions to promote social distancing in lines, seating areas, and on rides, the company said. So, one, this is a good thing because some people are going to get their jobs back. I did a poll just saying, would you be excited about Six Flags reopening my morning show here in Los Angeles? And like 83% of people said no, they're not even checking for this. I'm also hearing if you are going to go to Six Flags that they may set up some kind of way you have to pay through your phone only. so they don't want to exchange for credit cards or cash. So is this a good or bad thing that he's trying to open back up?
I mean, sure, don't touch each other's credit cards, but breathe all over each other just to go on.
And then the
roller
rides. Who's going to
coasters.
clean the rides after each person gets off, right?
Well,
It's
it does
the breath
say
that I'm worried about. That's a lot of breath.
it is a lot of breath.
Together, okay.
It is a lot of breath. I agree with you, Brooke. I'm not really excited about it. You know, I was just saying, we were talking about it last week or so, that it's kind of like certain things that we took for granted, like blowing on a cake. It's just something that now you just think about, like, how did I do that? I'm not really excited about Six Flags. One, I don't really love roller coasters that much, but like you said, it's just a lot of people, you know, everyone is going to be excited. But to answer your question, Romeo, they do say that every single ride after it gets off, they are going to sanitize the rides. But I don't know how I feel about it. It's just like being really close to someone, even though we're outside, it just feels really tight. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm good on that.
Not excited about it at all. Yeah.
All right, so let's check in with our YouTube soulmates. You guys have so much to say. You know I love that. Tracy Delgado says Johnson & Johnson was just sued because of their powder, and now they have a vaccine. You guys know there was a lawsuit some years back. I want to check in cousin Billy. Romeo's cousin Billy says Trump has blood on his hands. That's a good one, Billy.
Yeah.
A good comment. So another one of our soulmates says he is responsible. Biden has only been in office for a month now. So we got some good stuff happening in the chat. Keep the comments coming.